The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we are coming to you live from my guest room. This is how we live in these interesting times, right? And look, if people like John Oliver and Jimmy Fallon and people like that can do it, we certainly can do it, right? We're going to keep on keeping on. And I'm here in our living room. The show is going to look a little bit different, and every day it's probably going to look a little bit different as we utilize new technology, but we're here, and that's the important thing. And I really want to be able to be here with all of you. I know that each and every one of you is facing different challenges right now, and more than ever, we need a place where we can go, where we can get information and we can get inspiration. And you know that is our mission here at Autism Live. So we are here, we are live, we are going to continue to be here. We're going to continue to give you cutting edge interviews and information to help you to be able to do the things that you have to do. By the way, we welcome the entire greater autism community here. For me, that it starts, of course, with the individuals who are on the autism spectrum themselves. That's of course, right? But it is also everyone who cares about them, right? Whether you are a parent, a teacher, a practitioner, a grandmother, an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, a husband, or a wife, and if you care about somebody on the autism spectrum, then you are a part of our community, and we welcome you to come here where we can look for solutions and how we can get to that progress and maybe in the course of that change the rest of the world so that they understand and are more accepting and more aware. So in any case, we're here this morning, very excited to be with you, and we want to start by showing you some of the different ways that you can connect with us here on Autism Live, because there are a lot, and Traven is doing a fabulous job doing this show. Like, we're all in different places, right? So Traven's showing you some of the different ways that you can connect. My view of the screen is vastly different in this format that we're doing, so I hope that you can see it. I'm seeing all kinds of buttons that I can push. But I want to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. You might be watching us on that format right now, but if you aren't, if you're watching us on a different, maybe you're watching us on YouTube or Periscope or any of the places that iHeartRadio, right? I want to tell you about autism-live.com because there's lots of information there, and I want to encourage you to go there, visit, watch some of our archived videos, because we've been doing this show for 8 years. There's a lot of information there, and it's available to you free, and it's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You don't have to log in. There's no membership. Nobody's asking you for any money. We want you to utilize the information in a way that helps you. And I know for some of you, that's more important than it's ever been, right? If you're stuck at home and you're like, I don't have any help, I can't drop my child off at school, I'm a little bit confused. I want you to be here with us during live shows, because we're in the coming weeks, we're going to have lots of experts here that are going to be available to answer your questions in real time and to give you support, but we're also going to give you some interesting things to think about, things to talk about, things to do while you are at home, to help us all stay in the right place mentally, right? Stay healthy mentally and physically, because it's super duper important right now. So I hope that you'll check out all those things. And don't forget, on our homepage, autism-live.com, there is a chat at the bottom, a live chat where you can write in. It's totally anonymous. By the way, we moderate the comments on YouTube and Facebook. I will tell you that even before people were at home and more available to watch. We weren't able to keep up with absolutely all of the comments, although I tried during the show and I try after the show. But if you see that your question or comment isn't being answered, then please ask again. Because I do notice if I'm like, oh, somebody asked this before and we didn't get to it, and I do kind of give those preferential treatment. So be persistent. As in all things that are successful, be persistent. And forgive us as we try to accommodate as much as we can, right? I do like to give the disclaimer at the start of the show whenever I have a minute to say that we do have lots of experts on the show. And we love having the opportunity to do that. But I don't want you to get confused that I am not an expert in the field of autism. Can we be 100% transparent about that? I am a very proud mom of a young man who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. And I will tell you that I am one of the luckiest people on the face of the planet because he got access to crazy good ABA therapies, all the things that he needed. I got access to supports that I needed. My husband and I both got access to supports, and because of the state that we lived in, even though there wasn't insurance funding at the time, we got funding for our ABA, and it was still hard. I'm so lucky that we got all that, and it was still hard. So I want to be here to help you. I want to be your cheerleader. You know, I always say we hold hands, but we do it virtually. Si se puede, right? We hold hands and we can do this together. I want to be a part of your cheerleading team. I want to help you to get the things that you need and that your kiddo needs, right? So that's super duper important. But not an expert in the field of autism, just not. So there's that. Also, I've been hosting shows about autism now for over a decade, and not an expert, but I do like to say that I think after interviewing all these experts, I at least have an informed opinion. So if you want my opinion about something, bring it on down. But I'm not an expert, and everybody should be very abundantly clear about that, right? So at the start of the show on Thursday, we do like to start with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym. We try to figure out what in the hey nani nani are those experts talking about, and shed a little light on it. Now, we've been working on the verbal operants, and we've been talking about verbal operants that we talk about a lot on the show. Now, the verbal operant that we're going to talk about today, I'm not even 100% sure. Show them what the jargon of the day is today. What's our Autoclitics? It is the one I thought it was. Okay, so this is a word that I had not heard of until like 6 months ago, and somebody said that, and I was like, "What is that?" Because I was like, I don't even know what that means. People are like, really? You've never heard of the verbal operant of autoclitic? This is how strange my life has become. Somebody say, really? You've never heard of the verbal operant autoclitic? When did we think that was going to be a part of our conversation? If somebody had told me 15 years ago that somebody would say that to me, like, I'm surprised at you, I would have had them arrested. Okay, but it is a verbal operant. So let's give you the actual definition so we can all pull our hair out and go, no use to me whatsoever. Nonverbal responses that modify the effect of the listener of the primary operants that comprise, and I'm not getting to see the whole thing. I don't know why, Traven, but that comprise B.F. Skinner's classification of verbal behavior. An autoclitic is a verbal behavior that modifies, I can't see it, Traven. This is not well thought out. You guys can see it, read it for yourself. But in any case, doesn't matter because you can't understand it. What in the what? What does that even mean? I don't know. Do you? Because if you can shed some light on it, that would be great. That's why we do this segment, because who knows what that means? Okay, so let's take it down a notch. Let's look at what our working definition is so we can make the BCBAs break out in hives. Autoclitics are things you add to verbal communication that change how the listener interprets what is said. So here, I was thinking about this last night, and I was like, how do you explain autoclitics? Because this is a very difficult concept, right? But my current understanding of it is that, you know how when you text somebody and it's taken completely wrong, and you go, oh yeah, it's so hard in text because there's so many things that get left out that interpretation can be, really bizarre. Well, the things that are left out are the autoclitics. So when I could text the word, yeah, I love that, or yeah, let's do that to you, right? But what's the line reading, right? Because in person, I could say to you, yeah, let's do that, right? And you would know, oh, she's using sarcasm. She doesn't want to do that, right? Or, there are lots of different things that I could do. I could go, yeah, let's do it, right? And you would feel differently about how I felt about it than if I said, yeah, let's do that, right? So autoclitics are all those things that you add to it that convey information so that the listener says, oh, I'm interpreting this, right? So stop for a second and think about all of the perspective taking that is involved in autoclitics. So, not only on my end, I'm saying something and I'm adding some color to it, right, that is going to convey information to the other person, but the other person has to gather that information, sort through it, and make an inference based on that. Ooh, lots of room for interpretation, right? And this is total social communication. And for our folks that are on the autism spectrum, I love that a lot of times they will just cut through it and go, you said that, but I'm not really sure what you mean by that, right? Because I don't really know how to interpret what it is you're saying. How much do we all wish that we would all do that, right? Like, I've tried to be more like my friends who are on the autism spectrum in the last couple of years, and when I'm not 100% sure, because always before I was in the autism community, I was like, oh, it must be that I'm supposed to know what they're saying, right? And a lot of times you don't, because somebody says something and you're like, wait a second, what does that mean? But we think that we're supposed to know, so we don't ask. And for individuals who are on the autism spectrum, a lot of times, especially if they've been told it's okay to, will ask and go, what does that mean? Are you saying yes or no? And that is a skill that we all need to learn. But it's great if we can teach autoclitics too, that there are ways of conveying information. Look, we do this when we're writing, right? That there's ways that you can set a mood. There's ways that you can convey things to your listeners. And you and I, to some extent, we all do this, right? But some people more than others, and some people interpret it better than others. So autoclitics, all those things that are added on to communication that convey information. So it's a pretty interesting thing, right? But I believe that we should all be learning to ask rather than assume, right? Okay. Moving on, we always have a question of the day for you. And our question today, by the way, you can be writing in the answer to the question on any of the formats that we're on. So our question is, what positive things do you say to yourself? Look, we know that we're all talking to ourselves in our heads, right? And that there is this dialogue that's going on. There's been lots of books that have been written about this. But when I used to teach acting classes, a friend had referred to this as the yabba yabba. That, the yabba yabba is always, so you say something to somebody else, and I would talk to actors about this, but, even in your real life, you might say something to the person that you're on a date with, right? You go, oh, I really enjoy walking my dog. And then your yabba yabba says, that sounded lame. Right? We have conversations with ourselves in our heads. And not everybody has it as much as other people. Like, there's varying degrees of this, right? And I remember having a conversation with my son about this early on. I'm like, the concept of that was a very interesting thing for him, but he very definitely does have conversations with himself. It just looks a little bit different than it does for me. But we should not assume that folks on the autism spectrum don't also have that. And by the way, when we talk about mindfulness, which we will later on in the show, one of the things that we talk about is minimizing that voice and merging it into the present voice so that we don't have that constant commentary. It's not always helpful. But since we know that it's there, what is it saying? Because our brains are positive assumptive computers. So if the voice is saying things to us like, why did you say that? That's lame. Then our brain goes, yes, it's lame. I'm lame. Everything I do is lame. I am, why am I even on this date? I'm unlovable. Like, it'll just go woo, right? All of those places that we don't need it to go to. However, if we flip that equation around and the voice says, you know what, you're a really good person, the brain goes, yes, I am. Yes, I'm a good person. I have a lot of things to offer. It may not be the right things for this person that I'm on a date with, but I'm a good person and I'm going to find somebody who really appreciates that, right? The brain takes it and goes, boom. So what we input has a lot to do with how we're experiencing the world. And by the way, this is true for our kiddos on the spectrum, our teens on the spectrum, and our adults on the spectrum. We want to be building them up to say positive things to themselves, to experience the world through their own eyes in a positive way. We all get up every morning and we all have, that is my dog groaning, by the way. If you're hearing a groaning in the background, my dog is laying at the foot of my desk and moaning. She's sighing. But in any case, we want to make sure that we are saying positive things to ourselves. We get up every morning and everything is available. So you can get up this morning and you might have woken up this morning and said, today sucks. Today sucks and I don't get to go anywhere and I'm home with my kids and this is going to be a horrible day, right? And your brain will go, yes, it's a horrible day and here's all the evidence of it. And there's plenty of evidence of it, right? Or you could get up in the morning and you could input the thought, how can I make today great? How can I have extra fun with my kids today? How can I make the most of this day that we have where we're stuck at home or where we have the opportunity to be home? Like, just flip that around. Like, what would be super fun? And you know what? Your brain will go, yes, today does have the ability to be super fun. And if you say, what can I do to have today be a day that's really fun? What would make me happy today? What would make my child happy today? Your brain goes, yes, that can happen. Here are some different ways that you can do it. It's amazing. It's a magic trick, but it's a magic trick worth doing, right? So take some time to say positive things to yourself every single day. Model the behavior for your kids. Input things for them that they can say to themselves. That, because how often have you been, and you're going to experience this, so they're doing their homework from home or being online with a teacher, and you're going to hear from our kids who are verbal, they're going to say, I can't do this. I guarantee you. And then that becomes the thing that they tell themselves. I'm not good at this. I can't do this. And, it might be true that right now that they can't do it, but you can input a different statement and say, hey, but you're good at this, right? Let's remember that you can do this and you're learning how to do this and you're a good learner. Input that information so that we stay in a positive light, right? Okay. So write in, what positive things do you say to yourself? Because, we could all really benefit from knowing what those things are. So let's go on now to our topic of the week, which is kind of a pivot point. And let me just tell you, we set this topic for this week well in advance of knowing what this week was going to be like. So things have a way of working out. Today and all this week, we've been talking about coping with fear. How appropriate is this for all of us right now? And I have had the opportunity to be at a lot of meetings. It's been very hectic. For those of you who are still working from home, man, there's been a lot going on in order to get people to work from home and to make things work, right? For those of you who aren't working, there's a different level of what your experience is this week, right? There's very divergent experiences. And I have to be honest that being in action and having work to do has really helped me to cope with fear. And I think that that's a very basic tenet for all of us, that it's very hard to be doing something and be in fear, right? We talked about this on Monday, that fear is false evidence appearing real, right? Because in the moment right now, if you can answer just a few questions for yourself and say, am I okay? Is my family okay? And if they're not, if the answer is no, then the next question is, what can I do to change that right now? But the truth of the matter is that most of the time, if you have the ability to say, am I okay right now? Is my family okay right now? If you've got the time to ask the question, it's almost always yes. In truth, that in this moment in time, and again, you got to be very careful not to project into 10 minutes from now, right? Right now, are you okay right now? And most of us are okay right now. Yeah, you have fear about how am I going to get groceries? You have fear about how am I going to afford groceries? You have fear about what if somebody gets sick, right? And those are all things that are on everybody's mind, plus 38,000 other things, right? But right now, are you okay? It's very important to start from there, right? And then, then you can start to deal with things about, okay, what can I do? And when you get into the do, it's so hard to maintain a level of fear while you're doing something, even if it's that you get down on the floor and scrub your kitchen floor. I know, I don't want to get down on the floor. I don't want to scrub the kitchen floor. But you know what? I know that if I truly was experiencing a lot of fear, that's something to do. You can put things in the do column. So often fear comes from a place of feeling like you don't have control. And here's one of the things, as somebody who has had OCD and panic disorder, and I know that I talk about that a little bit on the show, but I went through some really wonderful cognitive behavioral therapy that helped me and continues to help me. And I know that it becomes about what we say to ourselves, which is part of that thing about, what are the positive things that you say to yourself? You can go through a list of things and say to yourself, here's what the reality is. You're not negating the fact that our world is different and we don't have control over a whole bunch of things. But if you will take control over what you have to take control over, it's that serenity prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. You cannot change what is happening in the world right now, but you have infinite control over this moment right now, how you're breathing. Nobody has control over that but you, right? You have control over the environment around you. You have control over what you decide to do with this day, if you are most people in this world. I know it might feel like you don't have a choice today, like it might feel like you don't have the choice to work, it might feel like you don't have the choice to not work. But ask yourself, wait a second. If I remove everything else, who's in control of me? You are in control of you. And what do you choose to do? And if you choose to input positive thoughts into today and positive actions, and even it's this weird magic trick, but if you are feeling out of control, take control of one thing. It could be a drawer. You could go clean out your silverware drawer and take control over that. And I tell you what, the accomplishment you feel when you've taken control of that, it like meters out to other things. So try to stay in the moment, try to take action. These are some of the best ways that we can help with the fear. Do what you can, let go of the rest. Whatever your personal beliefs are, whether you can say, I love the meditation of let go, let God, inhale and exhale, let go, let God. If that is not your personal belief system, find something else to say. You say, let go twice. Just say, let go, right? Whatever it is that helps you, find the phrase that helps you, because you can't shoulder it all. Right? You take control over what you can, and that's what we do. Okay, so we got a big show for you, lots planned, and we're going to get to a mindfulness moment, and I believe that we have a great guest for you. So we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to be back with more of Autism Live. Don't go away.
Hey, I'm Candace Cameron Bure.
Tom Bergeron.
You're watching Autism Live.
And you're watching Autism Live.
And you're watching Autism Live.
You're watching Autism Live.
Do you provide care services to someone with autism? Recently, more and more children are being diagnosed with the condition and getting the support they need as awareness grows. But what happens to these children as they grow up? It's estimated that over 500,000 youth with autism will turn 18 in the next decade, and they'll be faced with a very difficult reality. As children with autism grow up, their services start to disappear or become very difficult to access. Things like medical care, mental health counseling, vocational training, and more. All services that are still desperately needed. The loss of support that youth with autism face as they grow up is so severe that it's referred to in the autism community as falling off a cliff. Adults with autism need the same level of support they had as children to avoid falling off the services cliff. Introducing Skills Living, the web-based software designed specifically to help transitioning youth and adults with autism so they can avoid the cliff and instead fly to success. With Skills Living, help your learner with autism develop the skills they need in all the critical areas of adult life, including self-control, planning, and problem-solving, effective communication, performing life skill tasks for independent living, acquiring and maintaining employment or other meaningful activities, developing and maintaining social skills and relationships, accessing transportation and public services, and being safe. Skills Living includes a comprehensive assessment, a data collection mobile app, behavior intervention plan builder, and automatic progress reporting. It also provides a complete curriculum addressing 16 key areas spanning the entire range of functioning adulthood. Skills Living is easy to use and can be implemented by schools, parents, and autism service providers. Call or click today for your free demo and see how Skills Living can help your learner with autism avoid the cliff and instead reach their fullest potential. Skills Living. Wish, learn, become.
Neurodiversity in parents. One big happy family? We hope so. Anyway, what is neurodiversity? Everybody's talking a lot about it these days. Neurodiversity means that there's a view that people with autism just have a different way of being, and they should be honored for that. And then parents oftentimes look at autism as a disability or a disorder, and that can create some conflict. We sometimes throw up our hands, neurodiversity or neurodiversity. There can actually be some issues around this that we need to think about together. First of all, neurodiversity could be positive because it can create more of kind of a sense of acceptance in society. Yes, these people have autism, they're just different. It could possibly help create a sense of self-esteem that's improved in people with autism. They just realize, okay, I'm not damaged, I'm not bad, whatever, I'm just different. So that could be useful. On the downside, it could be an excuse to not give services to people with autism, to not have much empathy for their parents, and to not look at ways that they can be helped. And in many people that have autism, they do very well. Other people do not do well at all. They can't access services. They cannot enjoy their life. They're in pain. So it is important that we understand it's not just one issue. So how do we solve this when we look at neurodiversity? I think we have to look at it this way. It's kind of like when you have that big family dinner at Thanksgiving and everybody's around the table. You got your uncle, your aunt, your kids, your parents. Everyone has an opinion. It doesn't necessarily mesh. And I think the way that we need to think about this is we need to respect each other's opinion, because actually we need each other. We need to be allies on this. The outside world is a big place for people with autism spectrum disorders and their families. We have to remember we're one big, happy, dysfunctional family, and we need to behave that way. We should respect each other, listen to each other, and we will all have a great time when it comes time to get together and celebrate the lives of people with autism.
You and I were just talking how much we love rice.
Exactly.
And what we're trying to do with our kids is to
Get them off the carbs.
Correct. Eat correct, less rice. So literally, this is like what I would order at Benihana's or any, Japanese or Chinese food restaurant, whether you're at P.F. Chang's, and we're going to do it all with cauliflower. So let's go ahead and get started.
Let's go.
So what we want to do is throw this all into the food processor here, and we're going to get this to the consistency of little rice pellets, if you will. So, and I'll throw some on the floor for the gods who need the floor cauliflower. And that's good. I think that's enough.
Okay.
So we'll go ahead and pulse this on. This almost looks like the Parmesan cheese that we were making earlier with the pesto. But I love this. It's definitely got the consistency. It looks a little bit like rice. So Amy, talk to me. This recipe with stir-fried rice. We want to use a soy sauce, but why no soy?
So with a lot of our kids, where we know they have issues with gluten and casein, soy is very similar in the way it's molecularly made up. So that with the gluten and casein, they break down into peptides that the body doesn't know how to process. Same thing happens with soy. So in this case, we really would caution not to do soy sauce for a recipe. So coconut aminos is a great substitute.
And so we've got our cauliflower ready to go, our peas and carrots, green onion, salt and pepper, eggs, sesame oil. Now we're going to head over to the stove. First part is to take our onions, and if you don't like green onions, this is great with sweet onions or even yellow onions chopped up. Then we're going to take our cup of peas and carrots. And I always like to say we go together like peas and carrots. So we'll get this all sauteed into tender. There's the egg. So, if we can, we'll do a little salt and pepper to taste.
Good.
So now what we're going to do is take our secret cauliflower mix, if you want to hand that to me. And we're going to throw this in, and notice the consistency does look a lot like rice. We're going to take the secret sauce that we were talking about earlier, the coconut aminos. Just love this stuff. So it calls for a couple of tablespoons, and as you all know, I'm not a measurer. And I may just put a little more in because I love this stuff. Cheers. Oh my gosh. You would never know this is not rice.
No.
And we're hiding from our children all those carbs, and we're actually eating vegetables. Go figure. Hey, thanks for joining us again. Thank you, Autism Live, and we love seeing you here. We're all about healthy eating for our kids, and we appreciate you. If you have questions for Autism Live, hit autismlive@gmail.com. If you have questions for me and want to convert more recipes with me and Amy, that'd be great. We could do that again. You can email me at lisa@takanow, TACANOW.org, and we'll see you at the next What's Left.
This cooking video is brought to you by WellAmy.com. Amy, a certified nutritionist and holistic health practitioner, is an expert on autism and special diets. Find ingredients and other GFCF-approved foods and recipes at WellAmy.com.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm very excited because we have two wonderful guests who are returning to the show from Clarifi. Joining us on the phone is Rich, and I'm going to slaughter your name. I can't believe I didn't ask you. Uhlig?
It's Uhlig.
Uhlig.
Thanks so much, Shannon.
Okay, and we have Kayla Wagner, who is also joining us, and they're from a company called Clarifi. Now, you're seeing it on the screen right there, Clarifi with an I, and very important that we designate that. And so, Rich, why don't you start us off? You're the founder and CEO of Quadrant Biosciences, and why don't you start us out by telling us what Clarifi is for those who haven't seen you before?
Sure, that's great. And even before we start, Shannon, I just wanted to say thank you for bringing up the topic about the magic of positive thinking. It's such a powerful thing. And for our little company, 5 years ago, to see the clinical research that was being done at SUNY Upstate Medical University and the Penn State College of Medicine, and spend 5 years of work to get to the point where we can bring an evidence-based tool like Clarifi to the market. Powerful, positive thinking was a huge part of that. So thank you for mentioning that an evidence-based saliva tool that can very accurately differentiate children on the autism spectrum from children without autism, and that includes children that have developmental delays but not autism. This is work that was the underlying science behind it was funded by the NIH as well as others, and we have well over 1,000 kids now that are part of the research that went into building Clarifi.
And this is cutting edge stuff right here. When we first had you guys on the show and we were talking about this, and we were talking about all the possibilities of this being a reality, and since you've been with us, you've launched and you are in over 100 clinics now, and I'm so excited to hear what's happening, but let's talk about some basics for a second, maybe, Kayla, about how it all works and where people can get it and who should test and so on and so forth.
Sure. Thanks, Shannon. I'd love to talk a little bit more about that. So, as you probably know very well, and many other parents in the community, the current diagnostic process really overburdens families. And, the wait times that exist fail to provide children with opportunities to start evidence-based interventions early. We know that decades of research have shown that there's positive change, and children benefit tremendously from intervention services, and so time is really crucial in this situation. So Clarifi was built purposely to be administered as early as 18 months through 6 years old, and as Rich was describing, it's a saliva-based test, and its purpose is to be administered to children where there's a clinical suspicion of autism from a previous screening tool or maybe other indications by the physician themselves or by the parent. And so what happens is a lot of times clinicians are using a screening tool like the MChat to provide an indication of risk level of autism. This happens very commonly at 18 and 24-month well-child visits with the pediatrician. And then what's happening is a healthcare provider is providing our biological test as the next level of testing to provide a probability score indicating the likelihood that the child in fact has autism. And what's great about this is the results are objective, it's biological information about the child's likelihood of having an autism diagnosis, and so if results indicate a high likelihood, the healthcare provider can get that child immediately started on intervention services or support that they need. And really beyond this, beyond getting children started in intervention services, the Clarifi test results really help families find their way to, it gives parents a head start by allowing them to begin learning about autism early, understanding how to best support their child and best help them succeed.
Yeah, and when I think about, what are the current problems facing the autism community, and let's face it, in the last 2 weeks, those problems have gone through the roof. But one of the problems that's been pervasive is getting the diagnosis. That we seem to have a great delay, that the current process for somebody to get a diagnosis, it's a long time to get an appointment, and part of it is that it takes a really long time for a clinician. They spend a couple of hours getting to know the child, doing all these tests, then they have to weigh and meter them, and they have to write the report, and that takes many, many hours for that person to do, and then it is still subjective, that there are families who feel that they are, meeting the diagnosis and that their child meets the criteria, but the person doing the diagnosis says, let's take a wait and see approach, even in this day and age, and that it can be very frustrating and very costly for the family, and costly not just in terms of financial time, but costly in lost time where we didn't start the intervention. And, if there was a way to say, I'm seeing a couple of things, do a swab and go, yes, we've confirmed it, and streamline this process to be able to get our kids into early intervention, that's life-changing. So that's pretty amazing. But Kayla, so you already mentioned the fact that there already needs to be the clinical suspicion, but is there an age range that this is most appropriate for?
Yes, Clarify is validated for 18 months through 6 years old. So children who turn 7 cannot currently use our product. We are doing extensive work to broaden that age range, but right now that's the age range in which it's appropriate.
And when you say validated, maybe we should take just a second to talk about the studies that you guys have done and how effective you found this to be and why you are able to be in clinics. Is that a question for Kayla? Did I lose you guys? I don't know if I've lost them.
I'm still here, Shannon.
Okay, great.
So I can take it, and Kayla, please join in as well. Yeah, we've been doing clinical research on this in partnership with SUNY Upstate Medical University and the Penn State College of Medicine for over 5 years. We've got multiple NIH grants that have helped along the way. As I said earlier, well over 1,000 children that have participated in this clinical research. So and all of our peer-reviewed published research is actually available for free. We've made that available, and you can access it at clarifyasd.com. We did get regulatory approval to offer this test in December of this last year, and we did start offering the test for sale. Really, we did start in December, but got that kicked off in earnest in January. And as you mentioned before, it's in over 130 clinics in 28 states right now. It is a test that has to be ordered by a clinician, and parents can ask for the test through their clinician. If the clinician doesn't currently offer it, the clinician can either get online, again at clarifyasd.com, and request kits. Those kits are shipped directly to the clinician free of charge, or they can call our customer service line to request the test kits as well.
Okay, and that's an important thing for parents to know, that you can request it, even if your clinic isn't offering it. Say, hey, can we get this test? When a parent requests that, what do we know about, will insurance cover the cost to the parent?
Yeah, so it's very important for us that the test can be accessed by all families who need it. The first step in obtaining reimbursement is obtaining a code for billing purposes. We received our own proprietary, unique proprietary laboratory analysis code, or PLA code, from the American Medical Association in December. The second step is to obtain a reimbursement amount from insurers. So we're working diligently on that process. Since nearly 50% of all ASD children are covered by Medicaid, we'd like to achieve reimbursement from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services first. And keep in mind that by widespread adoption of a scalable, highly accurate diagnostic test for autism like Clarify, beyond the clinical value for families and children, this improvement in identifying children earlier can lead to decrease in the lifetime cost of autism. So, and a lot of that cost savings is actually first and foremost to children and their families, but then also to taxpayers in our medical system as well.
Which is pretty amazing, and that's just talking about the financial end of it again. But I also want to talk a little bit about the savings of time and the peace of mind of, for all of us who've had a child diagnosed on the spectrum. There is that skepticism that comes from people as your child participates in interventions and starts to improve their skill level. If I had a nickel for every time somebody had told me that my son, he's probably not on the spectrum, my kid who was nonverbal and hitting his head on the kitchen floor, having something that is not subjective as a way of diagnosing could save a lot of time and energy and help people to get on board. So there's the mental aspect of it as well that I just think it cannot be understated. It cannot be overstated how important that is. So where do we get it, you guys? So we go to the clinic and they say that they have it, or they say that they don't have it. When they say that they don't, where do we reach out to?
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
So Shannon, so the test can be ordered at clarifiasd.com. So what happens is if a parent is interested in ordering the test or using the test, they can print out we have an informational sheet that they can print from clarifiasd.com and bring it into their physician to educate them. We just released this product in December, and so there are healthcare professionals who are still learning about this technology. And so, but the test itself has to be ordered by a healthcare professional because it has to be prescribed by them. And so if they bring in the informational sheet to their physician and the physician does in fact want to suggest that the child is appropriate for this technology, then they can go online and request a number of kits, either by calling our customer service or ordering it. And if the kits are already in the office, the parent could use the test right then and there, and then take home an instructional sheet to register the test online. Results come back in 3 to 6 weeks to go over with their physician. So it's very similar to many other tests that are used in primary care settings to date.
Okay, so here's what I want to say to our viewers that are watching. Most of you are people who already have a diagnosis either for yourself or for your kiddos, but you may have a second child that you're concerned about, or you're the autism community and you have your ear to the ground and people are calling you, I know, on a daily basis and saying, I need to get my kid diagnosed, what do I do? And we all know the hoops that we had to jump through to do this. So this is something that you now have in your arsenal that you can say to friends and family who call you and say, I don't know what to do. You can say, go to your clinic, request this. Request this so that you don't have to go through I know people that have went through 3 years trying to get a diagnosis. I think if we can, as much as possible, move to this kind of a scenario, what it helps us to do is to get that early intervention starting faster. And as I don't know if you guys even have a bead yet at this point, but maybe you can speak to how insurance companies, are they accepting this as part of the diagnostic process and going, oh, okay, the doctor, or is it more the doctor is saying, I have this second backup, it's that much easier for me to do this, and so the insurance companies are absolutely taking it?
That's right, Shannon. Yeah, this is very new technology, and so it's being used on many levels. Because it's the first biological signature for autism, it has many uses in the diagnostic process that currently exists, right? There's the pediatric setting primary care on the front end, which the purposes of that is to identify children early. There are specialists of many different backgrounds who are working tirelessly to make sure that they can try to, see as many children as possible to get the evaluations accomplished. And so this technology is really bridging that gap to be used in collaboration by both of those systems, because pediatricians can't do diagnosing alone, and neither can specialists, because they have such a long wait list, and there's just, not enough of them, unfortunately, both geographically and in number. And so, both of those parties are working together to make sure that a result like this will, in fact, get the child diagnosed faster and into intervention services earlier. And we also see specialists using it as part of their assessment battery to support their clinical impressions and give parents the confidence to immediately start intervention services, because sometimes parents don't feel comfortable with the current assessment process. As you noted earlier, there sometimes are comments about its subjectivity in nature, and so this gives a nice indication for both parties to work together to make sure that those children are getting the services that they really truly need.
Yes, super duper important. So again, before we leave, we want to make sure that viewers know where to go. We've been putting it on the screen this whole time, but for those who are listening on iTunes and on iHeartRadio, can you guys say again very slowly where they go to get the information?
Sure, it's Clarifi with an I, ASD.com.
Okay, so CLARIFIASD.com, you guys. Thank you so much for being with us, and I can't wait to hear more from you guys. It's been so exciting to hear this update of how this is available in this many clinics, and I know if the autism community spreads the word, this will be available more widely to more people.
Shannon, thank you so much, and please do keep up the great work. We all appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Shannon.
Thank you. We're trying, right? But thank you, guys. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. So, you guys, Clarifi with an I, ASD.com. All right, we are going to take a very short break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to close this out with a mindfulness moment. Get that positive thinking going on, all right? Stick with us. Parent to parent, you might be asking yourself sometimes, why does my child have meltdowns? Well, the difference between tantrums and meltdowns, they're a part of typical development, but meltdowns are when things get a little bit more out of control, when even the child isn't sure what's entirely wrong. Generally with a meltdown, there's an environmental component. There's something else going on outside the child that's making the tantrum worse. It's really important that we start to be detectives and take notes and look around at the environment and start to figure out what are the things that happen every time your child has a meltdown. And lastly, it's important to get help. You really can't face these kinds of things effectively completely on your own. Tantrums, they're a part of typical development, but don't accept meltdowns as something that just happens. Make sure you get help and support. You might be asking yourself if your child has autism. Welcome back to Autism Live, the very special editions that we're doing from various different places. Like so many people who do shows, we're finding new and interesting ways to do this. So I'm joining you right now live from my guest room, and Traven is making the show happen back at the studio, although we think very soon he'll be making it happen from someplace other than the studio. So there is that. I wanted to take, we've got like 4.5 minutes, and I just want to take 3 of those for us to take a couple of deep breaths. So everybody, 3 slow inhales and exhales, and don't wait for me, take them at your own speed because we all have different lung capacity, but take a deep inhale and exhale. Put your hands and feet flat on a surface somewhere as you do this, and take your next inhale and exhale. And one more. Earlier this week, we talked about creative visualization and the fact that your brain is this really incredible computer, and it can go places in your imagination. That if you take, I know a lot of us are home right now and we're not getting to go the places that we normally get to go to, but the truth is that you can go to them in your mind. And if you have one of those virtual reality things, you can put on a virtual reality thing and go there visually as well. But if all you have is your mind, that's a lot. If you will just sit for 5 minutes a day, close your eyes, and visualize someplace that you would like to be, whether it's the beach or whether it's on Broadway, on stage on Broadway, or in the audience for a Broadway show, you will find that all of the little neurons in your brain, if you are truly able to visualize and enjoy and think about where's the light coming from in this space, and what are the sounds that I hear here, and what are the scents that I hear here, and really give yourself an immersive experience in that place that you would like to be, your brain will believe that you are there. It's like being in a awake dream state, right? By the way, sleep is more important than ever because your brain needs a vacation from all the things that are going on during the day. And in your dreams, you can go to Hawaii and walk on the beach on white sand, right? But you can also do that a little bit during the day, and it's a great thing to teach our kiddos too. Let's sit and close our eyes, and you can work on the idea of visualization with your kiddos by, there's a little exercise that they do with kids. They go, okay, I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to picture a truck. And for a very little kiddo, you could, put a truck in front of them so that they can picture it. First, they picture the truck. Then when they can picture the truck, then we say, now let's change the color of the truck. In your mind, picture painting the truck yellow. Whatever color it was to begin, picture painting it yellow. Now let's change the tires. And, see if a child can modify with that. Now, some kids are going to be frustrated by that. It's okay. Then I would revert back to let's just breathe. Let's just breathe. But start with putting a real object in their hands and saying, close your eyes and try to see it with your eyes closed. A lot of our kids can get that. In fact, it opens up a whole world for them. And it's a very exciting thing. But not everybody can. Don't be frustrated if your child can't. But breathe. We all need to breathe. Okay, so today's Thursday. Tomorrow we are going to do a version of Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Nancy will join me for the news. And then we've got some great guests that are going to be with us tomorrow. So we will be here for that. And then we're here every day next week. And where before some of our shows were recorded, we're moving to an all-live model, you guys. So you have the opportunity to be writing into me to suggest things that you want to be on the show. If you want to be on the show, pitch an idea to me. We're here. We're continuing on, and that's really all any of us can do, right? I want you to remember today that whenever it gets overwhelming, to stop for a second, ask yourself those questions. Am I okay? Is my family okay? Is there something I could be doing right now to take care of the thing that I'm worried about? If you're worried about groceries, you can go online and you still have the ability to order some groceries online and have them delivered. You can do that. If you are worried about funding, there are more and more sources of places, and we're going to be covering this at some point next week, places that you can go for assistance, right? If you don't have the money for groceries, because I know that for some of you that have it today, but you're worried about next week. Let's take one day at a time, right? One day at a time. I believe that help is on the way and that we as a society will help each other. I believe that. I'm going to choose to believe that today because it's available to think of the other, but it's better for us to believe that we're all going to be okay. And we are seeing tremendous acts of kindness from people in the world. So breathe. What can you do today? And you just do what you can today. We're going to get through this. Si se puede, right? All right, we are out of time, but my friends, I can't thank you enough for the privilege of being able to be here with you, and I thank Traven for helping to make it possible. We will continue on. I will see you tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.